Welcome back, folks, to the Business Blast. This Business Blast and all the Business Blasts for 2020 are brought to you by the folks at Satco. They do the light thing. They do the right thing, Greg.
That's right. And to kick this topic off, I'm going to tell you a little story quick about Satco because it relates to what we're going to talk about. So, great company to work with. I had a need for 10 light bulbs that are discontinued, and they went to the point of flying to Puerto Rico to get me those 10 light bulbs and send them up to me. They had a stash in Puerto Rico, and the contact I had there happened to be going there, and he said, "You know what? I'll get those 10 light bulbs for you, and I'll bring them back, and I'll ship them to you." And he did it, and just like he said, within the time frame he said, and I got them. What more can you ask for out of a company like that?
Go to satco.com.
Awesome.
That's satco.com. All right, what's up, man?
So relating to that topic, reputation comes with a cost. Okay, so that's what I've been. I've kind of always known that, but the importance of reputation in business, at the end of the day, that's all we have, right? We all can sell similar stuff, but it comes down to your reputation, I think. And that's what I want to kind of dissect a little bit. So what I mean by that, we had an instance here recently where one of our sales rep grossly underestimated what was needed when he was given all the details he needed to do to propose it correctly. So I'm talking about 50% less than what was needed. And he proposed it, and they bought it, and there was competitive bids. And now we're at the point where we finished half the project, and we need to get them double what we thought we needed, what we quoted. So what do you do about that? And that's what we had to break down. And I'll tell you what we did is we ended up agreeing to do the job at a loss. Not something you can do in business for long term, but something you have to do for certain customers just to maintain your reputation. So when I say it comes with a cost, I think that's kind of my where I'm coming from with this one. What do you think on that reputation?
I don't think that's a reputation issue.
Okay.
I think that's a contract issue.
True.
Right?
But
so one of the things, like, you don't actually formally own an electrical contracting company. I do. But one of the things that comes up is like pre-existing electrical deficiencies. That's a common thing that comes up, right?
Yep.
Like that, we're prescribing a lighting solution for you, and this is how many light fixtures we're putting in. So I think what you have there is not a reputation issue. I think you have a contractual issue. So your contract should contain the number of fixtures that you're selling the person, how a accurately general description of how they're going to be installed, and that's it.
Yep. So we had that in this case, but the customer provided by far the best map I've ever seen any customer do. Like, I'm talking, he spent days on this thing with the exact quantities listed. And our rep misinterpreted it wrong and put it in there wrong.
So what do you do in that case? He counted the wrong amount of lights, or what did he do?
He just typed in the wrong number by a lot. And everything was clear as day on the piece of paper.
But doesn't your contract reference, so your contract referenced this client's schedule and said, we will deliver this for you?
Yes. So is it on the customer to go back and do that, or is it on us to get?
Yeah, that's not a reputational issue. So what you're saying is, if I don't complete this job, I'm risking my reputation because this is all our fault, actually. So you diagnose the problem. Right.
Yes.
Well, I don't think what, like, you started off the conversation, you said it all boils down to reputation. I think that's a management and contractual issue you have, rather than a reputational issue. I think the reputation entered because you said, as Premier Lighting's position is that we make a deal, we keep a deal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's our position. And we want to continue to maintain that position. And this is an opportunity for us to show our customer and our workers that we will do that. The reason you do that is twofold. The first reason is that if you make a deal, you should keep a deal. I believe in that premise. But there's a second part to that. And that is, if you make a deal, you should make sure the other person keeps their deal too.
Sure.
Right? It cuts that the double-edged sword, right? So what I often say, and I remember I had this situation a long time ago, and I think it relates, and you tell me if I'm wrong. So again, back to, I have electricians that work for me, you subcontract. I also subcontract from time to time, but so I have electricians that work for me. There's one time I had an electrician working in a very big factory, and he was with it. There was a crew, and the people in the factory had gone on lunch. And when I tell you the next line, you're going to say, "Oh, I know what happened after that." So the company had gone on lunch, and the inside crane, those, you must have seen them a million times, those cranes that roll along the ceiling struts of a building. You know where I'm going with this, right? So the crane was in the way of the light. So everyone was gone. So my electrician decided that, well, I've seen how they move the crane. I know how to move the crane. I'm not authorized to move the crane. I've been specifically told that I'm not to touch this kind of equipment. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I can see that the chain is hanging there and it's not holding a load. And then there's the controller. They hang from the crane and they can just grab the controller and move it. So my electrician decided to move the crane himself, right? Well, it turns out that this is a dual load crane. So it has two loads, okay? So one load was disconnected, but the other load was still connected. And the previous crane operator, in his error, had left his load connected to the crane, which is also against the rules. So you know how these accidents, they kind of stack on top of one another, right? So the first thing was your customer did the most detailed proposal you've ever seen. And then your sales rep was the least experienced of all your sales rep and maybe the least conscientious. So he then didn't take that seriously enough and maybe whatever and wanted to win the bid or what. So you start to stack these things. So anyway, he didn't realize that there was a dual load crane and there was another load over here. And so we went to move the crane, and this jerked a 4-ton die off a press and swung it. Okay. Now this is not a swing set for die loads. So that load burst and went flying across the factory and basically caused an earthquake in the factory. Right? Okay. Boom! This thing hits and tumbles. Right? The die's probably worth $500,000. Okay. That's what they make is these dies. Right? The steel alone is worth more than gold, apparently, per ounce. Like the steel they make, because these are the things that they press, that these machines press against, right? So who the hell knows what happened? So anyway, manager of the plant ended up, I was having a hamburger, and the manager of the plant calls me. He says, "Mike, it's this guy from this company." I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" I knew something was wrong right away. And he says, "You need to call your insurance company. And then after you've done that, you need to come up here right away." So we get up there, we sit down, we worked it all out. And actually, he ended up being my number one reference for about 10 years after this, because we together, he and I solved the problem so well. Analyzed what happened, how it all went wrong. Nobody blamed anybody else. Everybody took responsibility. He took responsibility for his guy not disconnecting the load. I took full responsibility for my guy, operating the crane and so on. But what we decided was, he wasn't going to fire his guy for disobeying the rules and not disconnecting the crane. And I wasn't going to fire my guy, because we both felt like you can't teach something like that.
Sure.
Nobody got hurt. There was no consequences other than money, and money's easy to fix, right? Just like your reputation. You can lose a little bit of money, right? Nobody's hurt. Nobody's dying. There's no accident. Nobody got fired, right? So we said, you can't teach this, right?
Took it as a lesson. Sure.
And so he's like, we just both decided together, this is 2007 maybe, 2008. So I'm 27 or 28 years old at the time, young guy. And I'm sitting there with this guy, and we both decided that the right move was to write both guys up, but outlining how important this lesson is for our companies, both of our companies. And thank God nobody was killed. And thank God nobody was injured. And this is why we have policies in place. And this is why we take safety seriously. This is why, even if we know how to use the crane, but we're not authorized, we don't use the crane. We wait.
Right.
And so I think you have a similar opportunity with that right now. I would take the reputation aside, because reputation kind of seems like you're worried about what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're more worried about what the guy who screwed up thinks. Right?
Sure.
You see who you're dealing with, son? You see what we're dealing with here? So let's do a little bit of math. This is a $100,000 job, $50,000 job. The fixtures cost $102,000, and the labor costs $40,000 or whatever. So we were going to make money, and now we're going to lose money. What portion of this do you think you're responsible for? And just really push it on him, that where that fuel for the fire of your reputation comes from, why it's important for you. The reason it's important for me is not because of what other people think. I'm not creating an illusion here. I keep my word, and I make sure other people keep theirs. So what's your word here with me? What are we going to learn from this? How are we going to change the way we approach this in the future? And so I think that rather than worrying about the external idea, all we have is what other people think of us, I think is wrong. I think all we have is what we think of ourselves. And then we project that to the world. And so your reputation is not what other people think, because what other people think, it can be used against you in weird ways and to make you do things. Oh, our reputation is at risk. Sometimes your reputation is that I'm a tough guy, and I say no. That could be a good reputation to have, right? Sometimes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So it depends on who. My reputation to my competitors is that I'm a man of honor and I don't poach other people's employees. That's a reputation I have, right? I think it's a reputation you have as well. Or maybe not. I don't know. I don't think we've ever talked about that. And not that I'm against, offering people jobs that work for competitors. But what I'm saying is that you decide what your reputation is and then live it. Don't worry what other people think. Just make sure you're true to yourself. And that when you press hands with another person, that in that handshake is your word and it's your bond, but it's also their bond with you. And so when we're interacting with each other and we screw up, we make sure that we learn our lessons. We make sure that we act appropriately, and we don't worry about what other people think. We just make sure that we're true to ourselves and our own instincts and our own integrity and what we want that to be and what we want that to be for us. And then from there, what other people think is what other people think.
Can't really control that. I hear you.
That's my view of those kinds of situations, those disasters, those things that seemingly feel like catastrophes but are really nothing. Do you remember when BP Macondo well in the Gulf of Mexico was bursting oil out? Remember that?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Right? And the stock of BP went way down during that situation, right? They had the camera down there and they could see the oil coming out of the ground. It was just like a thing. But, I looked at it at the time and I'm like, I'm going to buy some BP stock as soon as they cap that well. Because they analyzed the cost of the disaster was like $60 billion or something. And that was like 1% of the balance sheet of British Petroleum. The company's worth hundreds of, it's worth billions and many billions and billions and billions of dollars. You understand what I mean? Premier Lighting is not going to be taken out by this job. So use it. Use it as an opportunity. That would be my suggestion. Folks, this has been The Business Blast, brought to you by Satco. Go to satco.com, a company with a great reputation. And you know why? Because the people there have integrity and they're good people, because I know them personally. So they do the light thing. They do the right thing. Go to satco.com. That's satco.com.